Welcome, welcome. By the way, I forgot to tell you, I didn't get a chance. I totally forgot to load that little thing you sent. I'm so sorry about that. I forget every damn thing. Oh God. You know, again though, like I always say, one of the benefits of being old is being able to blame everything on being old. I love that. I mean, you don't get much. You don't get much in this world when you get ill, but you get to go. You get to say things like, "I'm too old for this shit," and that kind of stuff. So
my husband says after 60, you actually don't have to check your rear view mirror or look behind yourself when backing up in the car.
I like it. Yes. Yes.
Hail
Like,
to the chat.
Hello there, chat. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Clobberin Times issue number 64 on YouTube, but 764 in all. I want to thank you all for popping in tonight. I hope we will get some more of our, of our lovely regulars popping in here tonight. Let's see. Hello there, of course, to the great RN Feliciano. What's up, my friend? Doug Oberg. Hey, buddy. Good to see you, buddy. And before we get started, we'll definitely show those pics.
Yeah, well, we were talking about Mr. Feliciano last night during Friday Night Frolics. And then after Friday Night Frolics, we were talking about his cosplay and the fact that there was no resolution to us seeing his cosplay. So I thought it would be a good idea if, with his permission, we could show his cosplay on the show tonight, if that's okay with you, Mr. Feliciano.
Yeah, we would show that because I couldn't, for some reason, the file was too big for me. Of course, I have a crappy old computer, RN, so I was not able to. Once I finally was, while you reminded me last night, I tried to send them to show them to Raquel, and I couldn't do it. I don't know what's wrong with the stupid thing, but they're big files. I mean, I thought I downloaded them, I can't find them on my computer. It's probably just me, but I get to make some excuses. Great, Steve Mitchum is here, my good friend. Quick show note. Monday night. This really probably only means anything to Legion of Superheroes fans, all four of us. But one of the great Legion of Superheroes artists passed tragically yesterday. One of my all-time. I mean, the great Steve Lytle. I even got Doomcock to mention it last night, although he wasn't familiar with who he was. I know RN knows who he is, and great artist, 61 years old. I mean, I never got to meet him, but I was Facebook friends with him, and it was always really cool to me. And as a big fan of the Legion, and I think he did a lot of other DC and Marvel work, but he was not a super well-known artist in the comic book field. But he was well loved, of course. Great work. Monday night, I will do, instead of just doing an open geek show, I'll do that, of course, but I will do a tribute to Mr. Lytle, because it's just, again, 61 years old. It's too young. And he's really a extraordinarily talented comic book artist, and it's just a damn shame. And Legion fans really appreciated him there. So, but we transfer great for sending big files. Oh, okay. That you Mark with a C. Thank you there. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Like I know something about a computer. But I appreciate you, brother. Let's see here. Mark with a C is here with us. And, of course, as they trickle in, we will say hello to them. But first, I'm going to say hello to my wonderful first officer, the extraordinary, amazing Miss Raquel Briggs. How are you?
Thank you, Captain. Thank you so much. What a warm welcome. Hail to the chat. I'm so happy to see Mr. Feliciano here, Steve Mitchum here tonight, Mark with a C. D. Oberg. It is so great to see you guys, and thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you all. We really appreciate that. We're going to be talking some Trek in a minute, but as promised, our good buddy Mr. Feliciano, who and again, dude, soon. I keep telling you. Of course, I'm forgetful. We needed to have you on. We can talk some Fantastic Four and some Legion soon. Sent us a couple of pictures of him cosplaying, and no, you don't have to resend them. I could just show them on here. I'm going to hey, Scuba Pete.
Hey, Scuba Pete's here.
What's up, bud? Nice to see you. Thank you for popping in, sir.
It's so nice that you're going to let us show these. Thank you so much, Mr. Feliciano. I really appreciate it. It's so you work so hard on all of the streams for everyone else, and so it's so nice to be able to showcase something you've done. Especially because you add so much to our chat. You make this conversation so dynamic by being here and adding information and adding your voice. So I'm pretty excited to see your cosplay. Let's do this.
All righty. Okie doke. Is we ready, everyone? I guess we is. I guess we is.
Drum roll, please.
We're kind of low budget for a drum roll. We just go.
I believe that's a motorboat. I don't believe that is a drum roll.
That was me going. Whatever. Okay, worst drum roll ever.
Well, you may need the motorboat for later because, of course, we're going to be covering Mud's women. So we'll save the motorboat for later.
Indeed. Oh, well, that's true. Hey, Sandra, the wonderful Sandra Feliciano.
Sandra's here. Good evening.
The better half is here.
Yes.
All right. Let's see here. Let's grab that. Oops. What are you doing? All right. Stop hitting the wrong damn button, jackass. Here we go. I have found it, and here we is. And I'll make that. Let me make that a little bit bigger.
Oh, it's good. Oh, it's good.
And I will click on. Let me go to.
Yeah, just double click on it.
Go to this. Yeah.
I don't know if your computer will open them if you double click on it. It should.
There you are with Herman Munster.
Oh, these are great.
Nope, sorry. There. All right, let's see.
There you are, man. That's great. You look wonderful. And this is at a cubicle, so you actually wore this to work for Halloween. Am I correct, sir, in assuming this?
Sure looks like it.
Yeah, really, really great. Really great. So we've got your Vulcan, and then we've got your Klingon, and this is wonderful. This is just so cool. Very, very cool.
Kapla.
Yes. Great cosplay.
Excellent, sir. Well, that is cool stuff, my friend. Love it, love it, love it. And I dig the Frankenstein's monster.
Yes.
There. I like that. Very, very Karloff or Herman again, like I said, or Herman Munster.
Yeah.
One of the other. Maybe more Herman, really.
Yeah. And Canadian Spider-Man was asking about my cosplay and being able to actually see it full size. So he asked that last night in Friday Night Frolics on Doomcock's channel, Dictor Van Doomcock, and you can find him at Overlord DVD on YouTube. Everyone already knows that, but I got to plug his channel. So yeah, Canadian Spider-Man was asking about that. So I sent a couple to Clobberin, and if he wants to show them, he can.
Sure. I mean, you want to wait till he pops in, or you want to?
Yeah, sure. Or yeah. If he doesn't pop in, we'll put it up at the end, and then he can see it on the repeat.
Yes, he probably will. But yeah, again, I'll make sure. Yeah, he usually does. He said he would. So.
Yeah.
He's of course he's out there in the wilderness. He is a rough and tumble lumberjack of a fella, I imagine. Canadian Spider-Man has said that he's supposed to be coming down to visit me way down here in Louisiana one of these days, and sure hope he does. The great Eric K. Hey, buddy.
Hello.
Thanks for popping in, my friends. Great to see you, bud. Chris Persia. We have two, not one, but two. Master wrenches.
Nice.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Good to see you. Thanks for popping in, brothers. Chris Persia. Good to see you. Eric K. Okay. There's a little thing called Star Trek we're going to talk about tonight. And we're going to talk about. Let's see. Sorry. I was on the wrong screen there. Okay. We're going to talk about 4 episodes tonight, folks, because, if we talked about one episode a week, we would be here long time.
Yeah.
Unless we did like multiple a week or something, but it's best to get it all. We can do it. I think we can handle it. I think.
What we're aiming for is to do the entire 66 to 05 in 1 year. So we're gonna push for 4 episodes and try and get those reviews and those production notes and those quirky little trivia things in for you within a year.
Yes. And starting out. We're going last week, of course, we covered the pilots, the Cage, and Where No Man Has Gone Before, the 2 pilots. Well, now we're going into the production order
of
the series. As many of you know, on September 8th, well, actually 7th in Canada, but on 8th in the rest of the world and in the States of 1966, The Man Trap was, of course, the first episode ever aired of Star Trek. But
yes, what a terrible decision!
Terrible decision.
It was absolutely the most awful decision, and I think that not only was it a terrible choice for the first broadcast, the 1-1. But I also think that it has led a lot of modern young fans astray as far as continuity, their understanding of continuity goes. So that was one of the reasons why, when you and I sat down and talked about this, that I wanted to do it in prod order. Because when you do it in production order, suddenly everything starts to make sense. And there are no more ha ha, he he, they made a mistake assumptions happening on behalf of the newer fans. So this is an eye opener because it's showing it as it happened.
Yes. And again, it's just when I got the big Blu-ray set we were talking about last weekend, I watched the first season. I went in production order. It just feels better doing it that way.
It makes total sense.
Yes, I mean, not that there's like a lot of modern shows like super involved continuity. It's not that. It's just I don't know, but there's enough to make you, if you're paying attention, go, that doesn't really feel like it should be.
Yeah.
Before that last one I just watched or something like that, especially with the early ones.
Yes, absolutely. Because, as we're about to get into, we've been talking about the production notes that are verified because, on Wikipedia, that's user generated content. So that can be stuff from cons, that could be speculation from the fans. It's not vetted material. So we have been taking production notes from Star Trek 365, the original series by Paula M. Block and Terry J. Arrowman. And and it's just, we're going to talk a little bit about it. The CORBOMITE maneuver, it has only 3 short paragraphs in this book. I think that is a huge mistake. I have several notes on the CORBOMITE maneuver, and I think it's real dumb that we had to wait 10 episodes to see this episode. That's just that. Boo! That was not a good choice.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And again, because this is, of course, this was our actual true introduction to Plum McCoy, to the great DeForest Kelley is Leonard McCoy, or Leonard H., son of David.
That's such a great line. I love it when he says that. Yeah, Leonard H.,
son of David. Yes, indeed. I love McCoy. Who doesn't? Yeah. It really does make a lot more sense when you see CORBOMITE maneuver, when you do it in the production order. And that's what we're doing, folks, production order. So without further anything, we will start basically get Raquel to tell us a little bit about what she has in store for us for Star Trek, the CORBOMITE maneuver, which is for me, incidentally, a top 10er. I mean, I really love this episode.
Yes. It's so hard, but as I get older, this is actually becoming my favorite episode next to The Cage. There are sometimes when I watch it where it's actually like, I don't know. I think it might be my ultimate favorite. I really have to wrestle with it. But I'm going to read from 34 or 33, 34 tile. And the reason why I say tile instead of page is, as Mike was telling you early on, this book is very odd shaped. It's like a brick.
It's a brick.
And I wanted to warn everyone too. I usually read this book in bed. And since I've been reading it at my desk to share it all with you, the binding has started coming apart. So it's not assembled entirely perfectly either. Because of that weird brick shape that it's in, the binding is not... It's in a precarious position. However, anyways, so 33 and 34, here we go. At the uncharted edge of the galaxy, the Enterprise is blocked by a large spinning cube, a warning buoy that won't let the ship pass. After Kirk is forced to destroy the buoy, A giant spherical spaceship appears, manned by a sinister-looking alien named Baylock. Baylock accuses the captain of trespassing and threatens that, as punishment, he will destroy the Enterprise in 10 minutes. Tensions mount on the Enterprise, and bridge officer Lieutenant Bailey loses control of his emotions, prompting Kirk to dismiss him from the bridge. Kirk, however, remains cool, employing a poker strategy to save his crew, the Enterprise. Kirk tells Baylock is equipment. There's an error in the book. Is equipped with a self-destruct system called CORBOMITE that will destroy any attacker's ship. The question is, will his bluff work? In the pantheon of Star Trek villains, Baylock doesn't stand as tall as Apollo, the Gorn, or even the diminutive Talosians. And in the end, he isn't even much of a villain, although he sure is entertaining. The sinister face that threatens the crew through the episode turns out to be a harmless puppet, its visage projected to the Enterprise's view screen by a friendly child-sized life form. 8-year-old actor Clint Howard, played by the humanoid version of Baylock. Coincidentally, Clint's brother Ron was working at a different soundstage on the same lot, playing Opie on the Andy Griffith Show.
Yep.
Although childlike in appearance, Baylock was intended to be an adult alien. Thus, young Clint's vocal track was excised after the episode had been filmed and replaced with well-known voice actor Vic Perrin, most familiar to viewers as the control voice from The Outer Limits. The vocalization of Baylock's frightening alter ego also required a post-production fix. Conveniently, actor Ted Cassidy, whose basso intonations had been heard as Lurch, on The Addams Family, was about to begin filming the Star Trek episode What Are Little Girls Made Of? His deep voice fit the bill, so the producers asked Cassidy to record the puppet's threatening lines. The effigy of Baylock was created by noted sculptor Hua Chang, and I know that that sometimes they pronounce that as Chong, even though it's A. So if I've pronounced that wrong, I do apologize. Like in the case of Garrett Wang, it's spelt Wang, but it's Garrett Wong. Anyway, Chang began his career as the youngest artist to work on Walt Disney's Pinocchio. He later formed his own firm, Projects Unlimited, where he created and built the puppets for George Pal's groundbreaking stop-motion photography, Tom Thumb, as well as the titular vehicle for Pal's The Time Machine. Over the course of his career, Chang would create key props for a host of motion pictures, including The King and I and Cleopatra. He also designed advertising icons and mascots, such as the Pillsbury Doughboy. Can you guys believe that? Chang created many of the iconic props used in Star Trek: the communicator, the tricorder, and the Vulcan lute, not to mention the tribbles, the costumes and masks for the M113 creature, the salt vampire, and the Gorn. After retiring from Hollywood, Chang segued into fine art, eventually becoming one of America's preeminent bronze sculptors. And so that's all that they have to say on this episode. But wow, is that ever jam-packed with information. We find so many different Hollywood connections. Do you have any thoughts on these production notes, Mike?
No, not really. Just, I love the thoroughness that you got there with it. And so, no, please continue.
Yeah, so that's all they have to see on it. But, oh, no, there is one more tile. There's one more tile. Sorry. The CORBOMITE maneuver is an episode of firsts, as the first episode shot after the second pilot, but held back in the original broadcast schedule to be aired as the 10th installment of the series. It marks the first time that Uhura appears, providing actress Nichelle Nichols with her signature line, "Hailing frequencies open," which she says, with slight variations, 7 times in this episode. So if you play Star Trek trivia, you should take note of that. It's also the first episode in which McCoy appears. Interestingly, the relationship between Kirk and McCoy seems already established here, with McCoy stepping into what would be his traditional role, giving voice to Kirk's conscience. Finally, it is the first episode in which Mr. Spock drops one of his signature observations. Fascinating. Although the Vulcan stoic personality wasn't yet entirely established, at one point he lowers his eyes in defeat to begin to say, "I'm sorry," to the captain. His fascination with all things new seems to be well fleshed out. The fact that many first season episodes initially were broadcast out of shooting order is easily discernible by the characters' uniforms. In CORBOMITE, Uhura wears a gold command uniform, but in Charlie X, which aired prior to this, she wears her traditional red ship's service uniform. So that later, becomes the comms, the distinct color of the comms people, comms engineers.
Yes, I think this was the only one she wore the gold outfit, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So what can I say, folks? Here are some of my notes. Kirk reuses the CORBOMITE bluff again in the Deadly Years. Here, one of the reasons why I love it so much is this is where McCoy's famous lines are and his famous quips are born. What am I, a doctor or a moon shuttle conductor? So it's just great. So that actually started his whole thing. When Spock tells Bailey to have his unfortunate adrenal gland removed, Bailey also gets shut down by Kirk when it's a democracy. I love that he says that. He's also insubordinate in a meeting. We can clearly see here that Gene Roddenberry is trying to demonstrate how this second episode is illuminating the need for military organization amongst the astronauts. We have extremes of drama and humor in this episode. The banter that would define Star Trek takes place here. Also, everyone, this is the best part. Not the best part, but this is the episode where we first see those $600 or $700, that's how much they cost in Canada, port wine glasses. You know, the little blue ones? Mm-hmm. And somebody in the United States remade them and they sell them, I think, for around $400 American. Wow. And you can have them shipped in. So we see those port glasses and they stay for the episode. This is the first time we hear Kirk say that he's married to his ship. I already have a female to worry about. Her name is the Enterprise.
Yes.
We have the things hidden quote in this episode. We have and we eventually find out that Baylock is bluffing as much as Kirk is. So, I just think that this whole episode is just jam-packed with so much comedy, so many great moments, and just such great banter that I think it may be my favorite episode of all time.
Well, it would be a wonderful choice. I mean, like I said, it's a top 10er for me. I really love it. Let's say a couple more hellos. The great, a good buddy, Smart Steve, 68's here. My old friend Jobber, Just Joe, 47. Hey, buddy, good to see you. And there was someone else, and I keep missing. The chat kept moving on me there.
Eric K. Did we call out to Eric K?
Oh, of course.
We need to call out to the great Eric K.
Oh, well, there's nothing wrong with calling out to him again. That's for sure. And there was a. No, there was a chat. There was a chat that let's say that. Oh yeah. We're talking with Joseph Sargent. He directed the Pelham 133 and Colossus the Forbin Project. If you haven't seen that, great. Yeah, great movie.
Ooh,
what a great.
I have not seen it. Now I'm going to watch it.
From like 73. It's funny. This is like 1972 or 3. Eric Braeden, and it predicted. I mean, it's one of those. I mean, very prescient films. It really predicted a lot about AI. I love it. Great science fiction film from the early 70s, and I love 70s science fiction movies.
Oh yeah, so do I. I love D. Oberg's comment at 25 minutes after the hour. Not chess, Mr. Spock. poker.
Poker.
Yes.
Yes.
When he has that breakthrough moment on the bridge when he realizes what he has to do. It's great. And I also love 26 minutes after the hour. I've always wondered what Baylock would have done if Kirk didn't make his poker bluff.
I have an answer. Well, a theory. The First Federation and the Fesarius were basically they were basically testing the Enterprise, so they would have done nothing. They would have probably just knocked their power out a little bit, sent them on their way eventually, and then left. They would have left in peace and not really destroyed them because they were too advanced. It was just a test.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. I 1000% agree with that comment. This was just about them finding out whether or not they were civilized enough to make contact. And yeah,
Galaxina, smart. No, well, I'm not counting. Galaxina, huh? That was 1980 anyway. But no, a buddy of mine did. Fun thing about that Smart CV actually wrote the Galaxina comic book of the 90s. Yes, they did one. Weird, I know. I tease him about it often. So I love this episode so much. I mean, there's just so much. The character of Bailey is really again the whole. He's kind of the catalyst of the conflict between Kirk and McCoy, which again, since this is the first one that they made after the pilots. They were very smart in setting up the Kirk-McCoy relationship because we kind of got a little bit of the Kirk-Spock relationship, even though we didn't see it yet. We hadn't seen it yet. You get that too in this one. Yep. But you get a really good setup of the Kirk-McCoy relationship with the fight over Bailey being is he too young and all that stuff about. Sure, maybe you didn't see a little bit of yourself in him.
Yep.
And all that kind of stuff between the two, and the conflict between Kirk and McCoy is really interesting in this one, and it's just shows the kind of writing and the characterization we had back then that we don't have now with modern stuff. Except for Cobra Kai, they're great at it. But other than that, which is a great show, but other than that, whenever I do watch new stuff, I just don't think people can write characters anymore like this, especially.
But I think that there's something very special going on here because I do have to say that the writing on this episode is far and away. Possibly the best writing in all of Star Trek, just because of the way these characters come to life as though they are real people, and the banter and just the way they communicate with one another, and all of these incredibly, the chat saying basically the same thing I'm feeling, and that is, this is such highly quotable Star Trek. This has the look and feel of a great pair of jeans and like the best fitting leather jacket, and you just put it on, and this is your signature outfit. And I feel that way about this episode. It's just, the writing is just perfection. There's absolutely nothing to criticize here. This is A++++. It is just fabulous writing, fabulous science, fabulous science fiction. It's just excellent all the way around.
Try to cross brains with Spock. He'll cut you to pieces every time.
Yeah, isn't that great? It's just,
I just love it so much. It's so good.
And he calls his adrenal gland unfortunate.
Yeah, we considered having it removed.
Yes, you should. That's unfortunate. You should have that removed.
Spock, that's a little human of you, buddy.
Yeah, and what's really great is that he winds up being the field study person for this species, which is just so great because this is a tribute to Kirk's command. He knows how to get the most out of people, and Bailey's humanity, and perhaps he wasn't quite as brave as he needed to be on a starship for this mission that they're going to go on. But he knew he was a fine man and a fine officer and a fine representation of humanity because he did feel that fear. And I love how Bailey looks at Baylock and says, "Oh no, I'm no exemplification." Basically, he says of humanity. I am a highly flawed human being. Of course, he says it much simpler than that. I can't
Yeah.
remember the exact lines, but
Right.
but it's evocative of that advanced philosophical stance where they're trying to establish this relationship with Baylock, that this person is not perfect. We're not perfect. And that is just, oh, it's just beautiful. Imagine
Yes.
if people would have seen this first episode of this show as the first episode of the show.
Oh,
Why did they make them wait until number 10?
I'm glad the show survived anyway, but I think I would have probably stuck with it if I was old enough. Back then I was only 2 years old, but I would have probably said, you know what, that weird salt vapor thing, which we'll talk about later in Mantrap, but I would have probably, that first one might have made me skeptical too. Not like pissed off as you know, and you know, Roddenberry's father going around apologizing to the neighbors might be a bit much, but yeah, no, look, if you know, as an adult, if you were like a friend and says, hey, look, you got to watch Star Trek, damn it, and put it with foot down, you got to watch it. I say, okay, give me your damn DVDs or whatever. And you know, I would expect you, because I do the same thing if it were the other way around, I'd tell you, look, this is production order. Here's the way you need to watch it. Don't watch the Mantrap first.
Yeah.
Watch the Cage, watch it in production.
Yes. And this sort of presupposition that the newer fans have, this tacit understanding that that Star Trek was confused. No, Star Trek had a principal writer, this amazing visionary person. There's no other word to use for him other than visionary, because he's world building and he's not doing it on the page. He's doing it on the screen. So, you know, this is Lord of the Rings. This is Dune, but it's happening on screen. So we can't do anything but call him a writer and a visionary. And yeah, it needed to transpire in the way in which he thought of it and how it happened. And for the production team to come in and sort of start moving things around because they wanted to entice viewers and they didn't want to turn viewers off. It was very obvious that Gene knew exactly what he was doing, and these people did not know what they were doing. And now all of a sudden, all this time later, you have a whole bunch of fans that think that that Star Trek is filled with quote unquote mistakes, and that they weren't sure what direction they were going to go in and what they were doing. And of course, that's all crap. If you watch it in production order, you find out that that Gene knew exactly what he was doing.
Absolutely. And you know, one of the story points that always that makes me love this episode, you know, because you're really, sometimes you're only as good as your ending.
Mm-hmm.
And this ending is what truly makes this Star Trek at its very best, at its very core. It's, you know, this was a Star Trek that sets the tone for all of Star Trek in a sense, because you know, in 1966, and again, like I said, you know, you weren't born yet, and I was 2 years old. So, but if you're an adult in 1966, and you're not someone necessarily that maybe doesn't read a lot of, maybe you don't read a lot of science fiction, maybe you watch Twilight Zone, you know, intelligent adult, you maybe watch some Outer Limits. So you've seen some mature science fiction on television, but you're still, this is a space show. You're expecting Lost in Space.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it. I loved Lost in Space dearly as a child, and I'm always having fun, you know, spot in my heart for it. Okay. You see this, and you know, you're having a good time. You're enjoying these characters. This is really your introduction to them. If they, let's say they'd aired it first, for example,
mm-hmm.
and you're watching and you're really liking this, but when they go over to meet Baylock, you're expecting, man, he's going to be scary. Oh no, this is going to be some kind of big confrontation. This is going to be, you know, you don't know what to expect. They set it up so well.
Yeah.
If for your first time, you're like, I mean, yeah, I mean, who knows what's going to happen here? And then when they find the dummy, and when they meet the Clint Howard, actual Captain Baylock, or whatever Baylock, however we want to call him, all hail Clint Howard, by the way. He's a really great guy. He's wonderful to fans.
Just before you go any further, you are not incorrect in assuming that there are two ways to say his name, because Uhura actually does say his name in a different way than everyone else. So, but anyway, Go ahead, continue. Just because, you know, if people are sticklers about pronunciation, and we have Americans and Canadians and Europeans and everyone here, everyone just needs to know that you are technically correct, because Uhura. her pronunciation is a little bit different than the rest of the crews. However, I digress. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I would just say that then you get to that. That is an ending that is so, if you think about it, it's so, there could have been some kind of just monster attacking, could have been a fight, could have been all kinds of things. But, and at this time, again, you don't know Star Trek. It's brand new to you. Let's say, again, I'm on the assumption that you're seeing this for the first time. And it was the first one to air, especially. You're going, if it was the first one to air. And then you see this peaceful, humorous, but intelligent ending. And it ends with two cultures, one extraordinarily advanced culture meeting a fairly, also a very advanced culture, with the first Federation meeting the Federation. And you got to be blown away by it. Yeah. You've got to be in that circumstance, because you're like, wow, this, it's not what I expected. If I watch a lot of Twilight Zone, it's always a weird twist and it's always a downbeat ending. I watch a lot of Outer Limits. It's really great. Yeah. It's kind of a downer. This one really, really has all this great tension throughout the episode. It has humor. It has scary stuff.
It's quintessential Gene. What you're talking about is quintessential Gene, which is we're going to go out into space, and it's not going to be what we think it's going to be. We may meet a germ, and a germ will be a life form, or we can meet an advanced life form, and they're not going to necessarily be alien. It's very philosophical to have this sort of idea that they want to be certain that we're not violent. And I really like how he's constantly turning people on, turning the idea, on its head, because of course at the time people were terrified of Martians, of alien life forms. Spock was supposed to be a red Martian, right? So we have to look at this socio-historical context and realize how brave Gene is for doing this. But yes, when we meet Baylock, it is so funny and it's so wonderful. And the tension is cut by that Tranya moment, and everybody has the liquor together, and we know how much McCoy loves his really good liquor. It's not just about mint juleps. He likes really high quality cocktails. And so when he lets that little smile go, when Dee does that, oh, I love Dee so much. You do everything in this episode. You feel a little scared, you feel the tension, but you also laugh your keister off. This is just, it is an epic episode.
It's so great. It really is so great. And by the way, speaking of Tranya, a while back, it's not really all that related, but it's just kind of funny. A while back, my son got me these earbuds, the Bluetooth earbuds from a company called Tranya. I said, "Oh, I know where that name came from. There's no doubt in my mind where that name came from. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, it's not even a real word. It's a Star Trek word." So, by the way, Canadian Spider-Man does whatever Canadian Spider can is here.
Oh, so nice to see you.
Good to see you, buddy.
Oh, and he's got a comment at 40 minutes after the hour. Could we please put that up?
Which one? The Neanderthal?
Yeah. Yes, a Canadian Spider-Man. Yeah, you're totally right. There's one just right underneath it. Yeah, Neanderthal and Neanderthal. And and bruschetta and bruschetta. Yeah, it's just so funny because Canadian Spider-Man is sort of getting into it. It's kind of funny. I think, I forget which show I was on, but I was on someone's panel and somebody said, for goodness sakes, man, let the Canadians cover the French. Because Canadian Spider-Man's getting into the multiculturalism in Canada. A lot of times Canadians will defer to the way the words are actually said in that language because, of course, Canada is so multicultural. So, bravo, Canadian Spider-Man, and you're definitely raising a good point.
Indeed. Yes, RN, Kurt was the consummate diplomat, even though he said later in The Taste of Armageddon, I'm a soldier, not a diplomat, but he is one, and he really is trained in diplomacy. Steve Mitchum, my buddy Steve Mitchum says, Mike, when you talk about how they set up the expectation of how Baylock being scary and then being humorous, that's the same formula used from Roadrunner cartoons, expectations averted. Meep.
Ron Thunderheart!
Yes, Ron Thunderheart. Hey-o. Ron Thunderheart. Meet.
Almost all the Canadians are here. I love you guys. So good to see you. I love you all.
Wow, my goodness. We're some north of the border types tonight, man. I love it. I love it.
Stack up the chat. I love you guys.
I love you, Canucks. Does anyone remember Captain Canuck, by the way? No, that's pretty obscure. There was actually a comic book character, sort of like your version of Captain America, but it was 70s and 80s. I bet Canadian Spider-Man's seen Captain Canuck comic books. He's probably.
I believe I have too. But Canuck is actually a derogatory term up here.
Is it really?
Yeah, if you're from British Columbia. It has like a whole story behind it. So
okay.
I think that's why. I think that may be why it didn't catch on. I'm not sure. That would have to be something you would need to look into. I haven't read about it in a long time, but I seem to remember reading something about it in passing.
Well, I guess it was George Freeman who created that character. Did not know that, I guess, and I think he was Canadian.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah. Well, it may have a hockey connection because I don't think so, though. I think it's actually like the people who are from a certain region in British Columbia. But again, you'd have to look into it. But then on top of that layer, there is the severity of the competition amongst our hockey teams. So. It's a big thing. Hockey is a religion here, okay?
Yeah, and there is there is a team called the Canucks, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Canuck is like calling Americans Yankees. Well, we don't mind that. I like it when the Brits say Yanks. Since I no longer live in the Confederacy. That was a little bit before my time. We're Yanks now. We weren't yet for only for a 6-year period with the horrible Civil War, where they're only part of the country with Yanks. But we're Yanks. I'm a Yankee Doodle dandy. It's not Jimmy Cagney.
Rod and I absolutely love Cuba, and probably every other Canadian in the chat. Canadians really, really love Cuba, and everything when they're referring to the beautiful cars that have been left there, the 1950s and 1960s cars, they're called Yank tanks, and you have to go to the government to book one while you're there, because of course they are hired cars, and there are laws about hired and private cars there. So lots of Yank tanks in Cuba, or Cuba as they say in Canada, because of course we try to say everything in the language from whence it came.
Well, does anyone really talk like Bob and Doug McKenzie? So I don't know.
Yes, there are some people.
Hey, take off, loser, yeah.
Yes, but we have like,
I love them.
Our country is so huge that we have so many different accents and just different regional things happening. Newfoundlanders speak much differently. People from the Maritimes speak much differently than people in British Columbia, and people in Calgary, Alberta, are actually developing their own unique accent that linguists are just starting to study now. So they're really they're developing something really crazy there. Instead of saying Calgary like the rest of Canada, they say Calgary and things like that. So they're developing their own accent like New York, and it's quite it's cool.
Excellent. Well, on CORBOMITE maneuver, what else do we have to really cover on that, other than it's a wonderful episode? You've covered definitely a lot of the background of it. And again, everyone, I'm sure I think we have a group here tonight that's very familiar with it because it is so wonderful. I suggest I couldn't even tell you how many times I watched this episode. I mean, I've lost track. Obviously, I mean, for the past 40 years, I've probably watched it well more than 40, 50, 60 times. I mean, it's just, it truly is one of the all-time great treks. Mm-hmm. And again, can't say enough about good old Clint Howard. I've heard him in so many interviews and things like that, talking about how fans, and people saying how good he is with fans and stuff. Mm-hmm. And of course, it's got other wonderful things. Ted Cassidy. Mm-hmm. You got to say that, you got that voice.
Yep.
Right. I can't even do it, Ted Cassidy. Lurch voice. So, yeah, wonderful episode. I mean, it's just incredible. I think one of the things that it really establishes its big three characters as well as you could.
Yes, and showing how good and how well they can act. That's, I guess, another gripe that I have, that number one should have stayed number one. Like
Mhm.
when they beam over to Baylock's ship, I want everyone to pay attention to how when they beam over, DeForest Kelly looks like he's going to bonk his head. He seems so shocked and so surprised at how short the ship is. And everything just feels so natural. And these are things you didn't notice when you were watching it as a kid in the 60s and in the 70s. This is something that you notice and you learn to appreciate once you have some time to really sit with this great book and study it for a little while. And I'm just blown away by the quality of the acting in this episode and the quality of the writing. It's just beyond. And
Yeah.
I have wanted the port glasses, McCoy's port glasses, forever. But if anybody knows where we can even get the Tranya glasses for under, say, $200, I'm up for that as well.
Nice. Wow. I've never even thought about it, but yes, some Tranya. Looks like it was probably Tang.
No, I actually think that it was mango or peach juice because it's really pulpy.
Okay.
It's super pulpy. Like, it's just so funny. I just love the look on McCoy's face. DeForest Kelly is such a good actor. I love him so much. He is my heart. I adore him.
Oh, who doesn't love D. Kelly? I mean, again, like I said, this episode, by the way, Bruce Lombardo, thanks for being here, bud. I appreciate you popping in. Monday night, I'll be on again. Monday night, I'll be talking some comics and stuff, saying goodbye, farewell to the tragic loss of great legion of superheroes, comic book artist Steve Lytle. Just letting you know that if you're able to pop in, man. Yes, so many wonderful things in this episode. I think one of the things that really, again, pretend you saw it first. Pretend it was aired first. I like to do that.
Yes.
And
that's good advice, everyone at home.
Yes.
Listen to Mike. He knows what he's talking about. I fully endorse this advice.
Well, because when you do that, you've got so many wonderful character bits. Again, all the McCoy stuff we talked about, the Kirk McCoy dynamic. You get some Kirk and Spock in there. You get, even Sulu gets to make a couple of cracks, and then when he's little Scotty, all of them. Granted, Uhura didn't get to do much of this one, but Scotty and Sulu got a few nice little character moments. They introduced the characters so well for this being a produced first episode. And then I think one of the things that really gets me, I remember one time I can't remember exactly when this was, sometime back in the 80s or so. Buddy of mine, a couple of friends that were sitting around and we're watching Star Trek, a shocker. We were watching this one.
Yeah.
And you see Kirk when he's just sitting there and you got all this high pressure, all this tension going on the bridge. And a buddy of mine just burst out, if you'll pardon I won't say the whole word. He burst out, he is so effing cool.
Yeah.
I can't take it. He's so damn, isn't he he is the coolest dude ever. And Kirk is.
Yeah. It's just, it's amazing. At 15 minutes past the hour, we have Mark with a C saying, it's also great to be able to watch this show on a big screen in HD. I wonder how many details you missed watching it on a little black and white TV. Here, Mark with a C. For all of us who didn't have a color television, some younger viewers may not know this, but before you used to have to buy either a black and white television or a color television. And many people got the black and white television because they wanted the floor model, which was more expensive because it was like a piece of furniture. Whereas the color television was too expensive if it was the floor model. So yes, Mark with a C. I watched this show in black and white. So this really gets into this thing that Mike and I are always talking about. And Mark's always talking about it too. And Rod and Eric and just everyone here. And that is the fact that the more you revisit Star Trek, the greater relationship you have with it and the more diverse things you take away from it because you're a different person. It's a different time. It's a different world. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Are you? Did you have to run there, Bruce? Okay, well, thanks for popping in. Hello, Bruce. Hello, Bruce. Hello, Bruce.
Are you leaving, Bruce, already?
I don't
Bruce.
know. Someone should have a great night, Bruce Lombardo.
Oh yeah. Well, if you're leaving, that's sad.
Oh well, that's what I interpreted from that. I could be wrong. I hope not. Let's see. We just ended our
D&D game.
D&D game. Oh, okay.
Yes.
I don't know why I interpreted
I'm glad you have arrived and you're staying. Good, Bruce. So good.
Oh, cool. I'm sorry. I misinterpreted.
But at the same time, Rod Thunderheart, thank you for making sure that you keep this community open and so friendly. And it's like going over to Rod's house for a beer. You know what I mean? It's really nice that everybody's looking out for one another in the chat. I just love this chat. It's the greatest chat on the internet.
Parrothead, how dare you, Raquel? Show
yes. No, I'm an old woman. No, I'm not. I'm not really old.
Oh,
I grew up in the 70s. I'm not that old.
I missed the 70s. Damn it, I did too. I had one of those little small black and white TVs in my room when I was very young too. So I used to just figure, man, I guess the world was in black and white back then.
Yeah, it sure was. And that's such a great comment from Mark with a C, because it's just like with all this new technology and you're rewatching it, it's just and I have the remastered stuff, and I also have the original gangster stuff, and I have it in color, but it's just so funny, like you see dirt on the lens and stuff like that, and then on the remasters they're like all clean and stuff like that. But Mark with a C, I love the dirt on the lens. Like, when you see the dirt on the lens and you're like, oh, guys, you should have wiped that off. Or like when you can tell they use the Vaseline instead of the lens cover to soften the women. And you're like, dude, take some of the Vaseline off of the lens. That's way too much Vaseline on the lens. We have to see the lady.
I can see zippers on the costumes now.
yeah, exactly.
I couldn't before.
Yeah, exactly. So wonderful comment, Mark, with this C. Love you, love you, love you. Yeah, great comment.
Not till Blu-ray, I could not see those damn zippers, but now I can't unsee them. Rod Thunderheart says 14 days to your half a century. Dude, I can't even remember that far back. So you're still young. You're still a youngin', buddy. Let's see here. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we could jump to
what did you just say? Don't sit too close to the TV. Where's that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, who didn't? Yeah.
Don't sit too close. Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. We're getting so much trouble. It's just so funny. I used to lay in front, like inches from it with a pillow on the carpet. And get away from the TV. You're going to go blind.
Yes. Well, I guess if you would like to, we can move on to Bud's Women, unless you got any more to add about the wonderful CORBOMITE maneuver.
No, just that, please, like on behalf of this panel, please watch this show or watch this episode first. This is 1-in-1. Okay, folks, please give 1-in-1 its due. So when somebody says to you, oh, the man trap is the first, or they say, oh, this is the order. No, tell them the prod order. Give them the prod order.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna read from this wonderful book because we'd like to make sure that we have verified sources. So we're reading from the Block and Arrowman 365 Star Trek, and we're actually on tile 3738. And so I am going to heartily disagree with the sort of narrative behind the writing of this information, even though the writing is correct. So the content is correct. However, the narrative filament I'm going to heartily disagree with. So I would like to preface the reading with that. Okay, folks? So the Enterprise beams aboard the captain and cargo of a fleeing space vessel just before the ship is destroyed in an asteroid field. The vehicle's captain, Harry Mudd, is a con man who's guilty of a variety of criminal offenses. His previous cargo is a trio of the most beautiful women Kirk and his crew have ever seen. Pulse quickeningly, heart poundingly gorgeous. Mudd claims that his current profession is wiving settlers. That is, matching up lonely women with financially appealing single men on colony worlds. Kirk is uninterested in the disreputable captain's career of the moment. Mudd's past infractions have earned him a lengthy stay in the brig. Unfortunately, receiving Mudd and company has destroyed all the Enterprise's lithium crystals, which are required to power the warp drive. Learning that Kirk's ship is heading for a mining colony on Rigel 12 to replenish its lithium supply, Mudd quickly sends a covert message to the planet's wealthy miners. When the Enterprise limps into orbit, the miners inform an astonished Kirk that he won't get his crystals until he sends down those 3 alluring women to the surface, Rigel 12, and frees Harry Mudd from the brig. Out in the intergalactic boonies live 3 unattached women without any prospects for a husband. Along comes a con man, Harry Mudd, with his quick tongue and something called a Venus drug, and wham! Suddenly there are 3 of the most alluring women in the quadrant. Ask any red-blooded male who's within a parsec of them. When it comes to amour, or amour, the Venus drug is the beauty pageant equivalent of a performance-enhancing drug. Not even Captain Kirk is immune to the profound effect the drug has on the women's charms. Fortunately, he does have the ability to pull himself together when the Enterprise, the real lady love of his life, is in danger. For a TV show that prides itself on its idealistic vision of the future, the original Star Trek series was not above treating women as sex objects. That is, when the plot requirement arose. And there was a logical reason for that. It was produced during the 1960s. Skirts were running short, libidos were running high, and the upcoming battle over the most recent iteration of the Equal Rights Amendment was still just a gleam in the average mad housewife's eye. Still, judging by the plot of Mudd's Women, none of Mudd's conscripted ladies would have voted for the amendment, assuming, of course, that they would have ever heard of it in their backwater worlds. Take Eve, the most rational of the 3 women. After spending most of her life cleaning up after a bunch of unappreciative male siblings, all she wants is the opportunity to connect with a good man. Even after learning that she doesn't need the Venus drug to appear desirable, Eve can't foresee a future that doesn't involve snaring a man. The thought of serving aboard a starship never occurs to her, except perhaps as the captain's wife. So she consigns herself to life on barren Rigel 12, cleaning up after another unappreciative male, and listening to the winds blow day and night. Mudd's Women was the 3rd episode of Star Trek to be produced, and it displays some of the same minor growing pains as the CORBOMITE maneuver. Uhura still wears a gold uniform, and the men's shirts have slightly oversized collars. This is particularly noticeable on Spock's shirt, which reportedly had a looser collar so that Leonard Nimoy could slip in and out of it without removing his Vulcan ears. Greater care had to have been taken with the wardrobe fashioned for Mudd's Women. Their garments provided an early glimpse at what was to become a signature element of William Ware Thesis' design philosophy for the show's costumes. It's not that Thesis' creations were scandalously revealing. It's that they often revealed areas of the body typically unseen in public. Case in point, the large diagonal slit running from shoulder to waist in the garment worn by the dark-haired character Ruth. And it reveals the gentle curve of the underside of her breast, a highly unanticipated area of display, and one that magnetically drew everyone's eye. Well, everyone's but Spock. So that ends the comments from Block and Arrowman in Star Trek 365. And I, of course, very, very, I don't like them. I don't agree, but what are your thoughts?
No, I don't agree much with a lot of that either, but I want to see what you think about it. I mean, I just, I don't know. I mean, I have more basically just commentary on the episode itself.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm to tell you the truth, especially if Ms. Block and Mr. or Mrs. I'm not sure Arrowman, because I'm not familiar with this author. If they're watching, I didn't really like what they had to say. I didn't really think that it was diplomatic enough, and I also think that it's sort of, I mean, it takes a stab at socio-historical context, but I think it's from this idea of this person's idea of feminism. So, so for in my notes, I put sexist question mark. Ultimately, Childress and Eve force everyone into an idea of an egalitarian relationship based on mutual respect. They both reject superficiality. So, if you've ever actually watched this episode, that's actually what you see. So you see these women, and they should be seducing these men, and Eve takes exception with it, but the two other women don't. And that's very realistic. There are some women that seduce men, and then there are some women who choose not to seduce men. So on that score, that there's nothing sexist there. That's just the truth. Women are dynamic. We're not a monolith, and we all don't view feminism the same way. What else?
What she's projecting, really. I mean, again, projecting her own ideology into a show that may be older than her. I don't even know. I mean, the show from 1966, when the times were different. But like you say, there's I mean, and again, I'm not that through. You can tell it's not one of my favorite episodes, but there's a pretty good underlying morality to it, like all Star Trek. And it's just, they have to view everything through the lens of today, even if it's something produced 50 years ago.
Yeah, but even if you do look at it from today, these three women, these women still exist. And there are men who naturally are sexually attracted to women who are physically attractive, and that's all they want out of their relationship. And many times those people wind up getting divorced because they have a superficial relationship. So when I look at this episode, I'm not really looking at this episode and I'm thinking to myself, oh my goodness, I'm actually thinking about how realistic it is, because Eve, she confronts Childress, and she even confronts Kirk, and she says, look, I'm looking for something way more than just sexual attraction. There's also this idea that what I really love about this, if we're reading this in a modern way, is how women are sort of lying to the internet and to themselves and to others, to the point of developing mental illness by using all of these filters and Photoshop. They use it so much that they have a distorted image of themselves and others. There's even an entire wing, a new wing of plastic surgery dedicated to these filters that women are using. So if you want to read something modern into it, I love the fact that this is showing that so these women are kind of catfishing these guys, and Eve isn't. Eve doesn't care if Childress sees her without makeup. She doesn't care about this thing, and wants something that is real, that is tangible, that can grow, that's love, that's based on mutual respect. And there are several times in the episode where she gets to show she's more intelligent than him. She's a better cook than him. She understands things better than him and is far more logical than he is, especially when she tells him to take the pans outside.
Absolutely. This is not in any way any kind of a misogynistic or sexist portrayal of women. And I don't know, how long ago was this book written again by this woman? It's been like maybe 10 years now or something.
Oh, but she's still writing for Star Trek.
I understand.
I think she wrote a book for J.J. Abrams as well.
Oh, well, that should tell you something. But no, I understand. I just think she's projecting, and I just think she's again.
I think so too.
She's looking at it in a very shallow way, a very superficial way, saying, "Oh my God, look how scantily dressed they are," because women never do that on the internet or anything.
And it's not only that, an egalitarian relationship in 1966. I mean, this woman was fighting for an egalitarian relationship. The other two women didn't want anything to do with it.
Right.
They realized their drug wear wanted to get.
Sounds like a very even-handed and progressive story to me.
Yes, because these were small town women that were just growing old. Women also have sexual desires, you know. If I want to get off a planet and go meet a man, just because I don't want to sign up for subjugated, it just means that I want to get laid. Anyway,
I don't believe you. That never happens.
There are a couple of things that I wanted to bring up, and one is this idea of love potion number 9. This sort of Derulian drug, the Orville. We see this idea in Enterprise when they turn the Orion slave girls into the aggressor, which I think is wonderful that Enterprise does that. And there are writing and in our mythologies where there is a love potion number 9. So let's not put the weight of love potion number 9 on one little Star Trek episode. Also, everyone should know that at this point, they were still sort of playing with the idea of lithium. And I think it was because of lithium ion. And I think they were talking about the validity of the science. So everyone should know that this is the only episode in which they refer to lithium. Okay, so later on it's dilithium, which everyone, our chat's smart and well educated in this IP, but that is a technicality that maybe a new Trek person wouldn't know. So yeah, lithium becomes dilithium later on. And other than that, that's about all I had in my notes.
Well, let's see. Was Raquel starting to bebop a little bit? Oh yeah, there was some the mic. You were having some sound issues there for a second, but you're clear now, so you're good.
Oh, weird. I have my headphones in.
Yeah, no, it was, I don't know. It could have been StreamYards. I mean, it just happens. Now I'm hearing you fine. So you're hearing her good now, right, everyone?
Sorry, Joe. I have my earbuds in and my little microphone attached to my earbuds.
Probably some kind of StreamYard thingy that happens. Yeah, this is not one of my top-notch episodes. Like, was it?
No.
Jobber put up there, when we many years ago, my good buddy Flash and we did a long, oh God, so long ago now, but Jobber remembers. I can't say you remember all those old shows, Jobber. You're the man. We did our top 25 favorite episodes of Trek Countdown, but then the week after, excuse me, we did our top 10 worst. And people were mad at us, like, my wonderful friend Kim, a few years before that, she and I did the same thing, and it was torture for her to have to come up with 10 episodes. She said, I love Star Trek too much to talk bad about an episode. I said, come on, it'll be fun. We love it too. We're just going to beat up on it. I mean, nothing's above criticism. And she did it because she hates alternative factors so much. So anyway, and so does Flash. So anyway, Jobber tells me that, you sound great now. You're good. That they did Flash put this on his top 10 worst list. I don't know if it's that bad. I just think it's kind of, I don't know. I don't know. There's some good stuff in it, as you touched on. Some of the stuff again with the morality.
Look at the way that they're dressed. That's my kind of power, Mike.
Oh, hey, that's fantastic.
That is my kind of power. Some women, they think that modesty and chastity is power. I don't see modesty and chastity as power. I'm a woman. I consider myself a feminist. But that doesn't mean that everyone has the same definition of feminism as I do. I just go by the dictionary definition, which is the radical notion that women have the same rights as men under the law, and it stops there for me. But I like being able to dress whatever way I like. And in 1966, women were generally not allowed to dress like this. This is extremely empowering. So I like dressing like this. I know women that are superficial. I know men that are superficial. Women catfish men. And then there are also women out there who fearlessly dress sexy. They're not afraid to not use filters and love potion number 9. They don't need makeup, and they are looking for an egalitarian relationship. And anyone who looks at the exchanges between Childress and Eve, well, they actually change her name back and forth, Evie and Eve in this episode. Mm-hmm. Anyone who doesn't look at that as an egalitarian relationship is a nincompoop. I mean, she even explains Double Jack to him. He doesn't even know how to play cards properly. She's clearly the more intelligent person here. And Jean demonstrates that.
And that's a pretty good little back and forth relationship between them for a short, being something that was very short.
Yeah, Childress cooks. He's like, I'm going to cook. You're going to cook. We're both going to cook. 1966, folks.
And of course, since this was in the 60s, it felt he was like he was just dressed like one of those westerns. I've seen that guy in so many different things. But he was just come off the set of one of those westerns, like he was probably shooting The Virginian the week before, or the day before. He said, "Hey, come over, just dress like that. You're on an alien planet. What the hell?" But yeah. Yes, and of course, I love the girls.
They're beautiful.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, Susan Denberg. Oh God, I'm sorry, but
it's not the best written episode, is it, Mike? It's not the best written episode. It's also it's pretty Swiss cheesy too. The fact that the pills are can have the same effect as placebo, and then it's a little cheesy that it's just like, no, you have to find your beauty from within. Like it's a little cheesy, right. But like let's also put that into, like I said, socio-historical context, and let's not forget about all the high points and good things about the episode. And let's remember, this is 50 minutes, people. It's 50 minutes. It's not like, it's the same length as, Bleak House or something, where we can flesh out all of feminism. Everybody just slow your roll and don't be so angry with Star Trek.
Yeah, and at least it's not a wimpy ass 42 minutes like they do now. But yeah, okay, look, there. Speak of the devil, you've been talked about. Your ears are burning there. Flash is here. Carrie Fisher in the chat, everyone. Hey, buddy. Yes. By the way, I will say one of the highlights of the episode for me is Roger C. Carmel. I think he's terrific. I love both of his appearances as Harry Mudd. I think he's great. I love the actor. He's also in an episode of the Adam West Batman show that I love. So, I know Steve quoting a piece of the action. It could be a while till we get to that one, brother. I don't know the rest of my life. Sorry.
The thing that I love about Harry Mudd that I don't think that a lot of people who don't read quite a lot didn't really catch on to is this idea of being on a ship and meeting a pirate and then meeting some women who are also pirates. And one is virtuous and wonderful and looking for a real life. And the other two are happy to just continue being pirates. So I love that swashbuckling outfit that he's wearing, the cartoon huge belt, the big pirate sleeves that, would just swallow you in a hug, and the bizarre hat and just the insane earring. I mean, I'm sure Johnny Depp must have looked at Harry Mudd when he was forming his character for Pirates of the Caribbean. Harry Mudd is a great space pirate here as we sail through space and we meet these piratey women. One is very virtuous and the other two, well, they're just no good at all.
Oh yeah, Flash. The Jobber was just mentioning. We were talking about Mudd's women. He says he thinks he remembers that you had it on your top 10 worst Trek episodes list way all those millions of decades ago that we did our show about it. So I can't remember that, man. I can't believe he remembers that. But somehow something that you don't like Harry Mudd, which of course you're wrong about, but it's okay. Still love you. I like Harry Mudd, but again, he's goofy, but a great performance by Roger C. Carmel. So. Yeah. Well, again, you think we're ready to scoot to the next one, or you
good? Let's keep motoring. Unless somebody in the chat has something to say. Did we miss anything that anyone had to say? Because the chat is super important to me, and I want to make sure that we get to whatever anybody says. Does anybody have any trivia or anything they want to say? I'm surprised. Usually, you guys are like, you guys got more things to say, and you include things that even I don't know. But no, crickets, hey? Oh, we did a good job. Onward and upward.
We covered it, man. I think we covered it. Thank you,
smart
everyone.
Steve. Make him walk the plank.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Let's see. Then what we'll do next would be the enema. Just kidding. The enemy. So I never can resist saying I'm an idiot. Enemy.
Ron Thunderheart. Can we please put up Ron Thunderheart's comment from 19 minutes after the hour?
All right. Let's see here. Where you at, Rod? Where you at, Rod?
18 minutes past the hour. It's pretty funny. In all caps.
Oh, well,
I think
yeah.
we're busy staring.
And why not? And why not?
Yeah. Great comment. Great comment. Okay, so the enema within.
I can never resist.
Right?
Yeah, that's it. The enema within, everyone. The third produced episode of Star Trek: The Original Cities.
Oh, really? I have it as Prod 5.
Oh.
I believe the enemy within is Prod 5. It's Ep 5 and Prod 5.
Well, then
pretty sure it is.
The online order that I pulled up could have gotten it wrong. That's the way I pulled it up for the gentleman. When you Google, and granted, it's Google.
Yeah,
I mean, it goes to Memory Alpha, I believe. Let's see.
I'm also middle-aged, so let's go find out.
Let's see.
Hold on.
Let's see something here.
The enemy within. Here we go. Yes, I am correct. It's Ep 5 and Prod 5.
So it's not next. Which is fine.
The enemy within.
Let's see.
Okay, let's do it, guys.
So it's not next, then, is what you're saying.
The enemy within is season 1, episode 5, and it's production code 5.
Oh yeah. I meant, well, yeah, it is 5. But I'm saying it's next though. I meant.
Oh yes. You mean right, third from tonight? Yes. Totally.
Sorry, I was thinking third in the sense that of the aired. I don't know.
No problem. Right. I totally understand. Okay, let's do it, guys. All right. So right now, let's just make sure that we're copyright compliant here. So Star Trek 365 by Block Arrowman, tile 4142.
Go for it.
A standard geological survey mission becomes a nightmare for the crew when a transporter malfunction splits Captain Kirk into two beings, a violent character who's all animalistic id, with a dangerous desire for yeoman Ran, and a compassionate, indecisive man, psychologically incapable of making a command decision. Compounding matters, the malfunction has trapped the ship's landing party on the surface, where temperatures will drop to a deadly minus 127 degrees Fahrenheit overnight. With the lives of the crewmen in the landing party at stake and his own life on the line, the good Kirk must decide whether he wants to allow Scotty and Spock to use the transporter to reintegrate himself with his evil counterpart. The Enemy Within is best remembered for William Shatner's dual performance, particularly for his take on the dark side of Captain Kirk. As the captain's gentle twin notes in Disgust, the evil side of Kirk is a thoughtless, brutal animal, barely capable of communicating and demands. The shot that first reveals him to the audience, dramatically staged by director Leo Penn, and this is, of course, the Sean Penn. You guys know the actor Sean Penn. That's his father. And dramatically lit by director of photography Jerry Finnerman, emphasizes the bestial quality as evil Kirk looks around warily and flares his nostrils to the scent of air, a predator in unfamiliar territory. This science fiction twist on the story of Jekyll and Hyde was written by Richard Matheson, a well-known author-screenwriter behind such films as Duel, I Am Legend, The Incredible Shrinking Man, Somewhere in Time, as well as one of the Twilight Zone's most popular episodes, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, which coincidentally features William Shatner in another scene-chewing performance. As Star Trek director Matt Jeffries devised many of the now familiar elements envisioned by the show's producers, sometimes instructions for to Jeffries were vague, sometimes quite specific. Gene Roddenberry, Jeffries claimed, was a wonderful dreamer. He had imagined a starship or a handheld weapon, and he would count on Jeffries, the self-described nuts and bolts man, to bring Gene's vision into reality. A conversation between the two men about thermodynamics, for example, led to the development of the phaser, a device that Roddenberry felt should be far more multi-purpose than just a traditional Buck Rogers-style ray gun. Jeffries was instructed to come up with a small device that would emit a beam of energy. This energy could then be adjusted to interact with a wave pattern at any molecular form. The particle energy phase required was contingent upon the nature of the target. It could convert matter into energy, it could stun or disintegrate a being, or slam someone into a wall, depending upon the setting. It could also speed up the molecular activity of an inanimate object, heating a rock to molten temperatures, which is why it is a good thing that Sulu, as depicted in the sketch in this book by Jeffries, had a phaser with him while trapped on the frigid surface of Alpha 177. The good Kirk has a tough time making command decisions or even having talk. He's soft-spoken, wishy-washy, indecisive. Sound familiar, Captain Pike? During a conversation with Sulu, who is trapped on the surface below, Kirk is unable to tell the helmsman that Scotty has made no progress on repairing the transporter. Spock steps in and delivers the bad news in his usual dispassionate manner. Later, when Kirk is presented with a possible, albeit a dangerous, way to rejoin his alter ego, he seems more concerned about integrating with the ugly side of himself than he is about the possibility of dying in the process. I can't survive without him, but I don't want to take him back, Kirk says. He's like an animal. Spock reminds Kirk that that it is the negative side of him that wields the ability to command, while McCoy points out that the good side has the courage, the compassion, and the intelligence that the captain needs to lead. Star Trek traditionally steers away from product placement, but borrowing an exotic-looking item from the real world and cleverly transforming it into an on-set prop is entirely another story. A few examples. Scandinavian modern salt and pepper shakers produced from the local department store were incorporated into Dr. McCoy's arsenal of surgical implements. McCoy used a 20th century handheld microphone as a white sound device in the episode Court Martial. And Captain Kirk's Saurian brandy, in its very unique bottle, was actually a commemorative powder horn whiskey decanter produced by the George Dickel Distillery of Tennessee in 1964. Although featured most prominently in The Enemy Within, the bottle would show up in several other episodes, including Journey to Babel, Space Seed, By Any Other Name, Ellen of Troyes, and Ellen of Troyes, or Elan of Troyes. Similar powder horn decanters fetched a pretty penny in dealer rooms and in the dealer rooms of early Star Trek conventions, even if they contained no whiskey. So that's all of the coverage from 365 on this episode. I think it's really illuminating. I liked learning about the decanter. I didn't realize that somebody just grabbed it from like a liquor store close by. That's really crazy. What else do I think is really cool? Oh, that there's so much trivia in here. If you play Star Trek trivia, the advanced versions of Star Trek trivia, there are so many great tips here, right? All of the episodes that contain the famous decanter.
I have a buddy of mine that has that thing, by the way. That one, the horn thing. What'd you call it again? What was it called?
I'll read the whole thing again, especially for our American friends. You take down, make note of what I'm about to say. I'm going to read the whole name of it because you're in the United States. If you guys can get this bottle, go ahead and Google it and see if you can get it because it's really awesome. Okay, so it's called a powder horn whiskey decanter, and it is from the George Dickel, that's Kel, so like nickel, George Dickel Distillery in Tennessee, and it was made in 1964. So if that's still kicking about in States, wow, what a great thing to have. If you can find that, folks, wow, that would be a great find at a local swap meet or a secondhand store, or somebody who has no idea what they have their hands on.
Question, and again, even though I've watched this episode many times, of course, obviously, I do forget bits. And sometimes, I
That's
just
okay.
don't trust my memory anymore.
That's
So,
okay.
did they explain why they couldn't use the shuttlecraft to go pick everyone up yet? Or is it just simply a fact that it hadn't been incorporated into the show yet?
Yeah, I don't think that it had been incorporated into the show yet. And I think that's also why Block and Arrowman, this person's name is. I think that's also why they preface so much of what they couldn't do budget-wise in the episode. So this, it is entirely likely that this isn't a plot hole. It's actually it's a money issue.
Gotcha.
And when we've been reading this book, one thing that we did do is we skipped over, I would say, about 30 pages where they talked about the paraphernalia of Star Trek and some exchanges that went on betwixt Gene and the staff and the production company and Paramount, and just complaining about the fact that there was literally no money. Yeah. Well, I shouldn't say literally, but there was basically no money, to the point where they all sent around this letter to one another, arguing about whether or not they would pay for a haircut for someone if the haircut was vital to their on-screen presence. I think the haircut was $6. So this is a very, very, very shoestring budget.
Yes.
And yeah. No money here, Mike.
Wasn't too long out. Yeah, it was a little bit. It was a little bit later before we ended up having the shuttlecraft, like Smart Steve said. When installed till Tuesday. Blame Captain Harriman. Yeah, nice to reference there to Generations. This episode is one of the and again, I don't know if it's a top 10er for me or anything, but I really do love it. There's some over the top moments, I guess you could possibly say, if you want to be critical, but I think I agree with Flash. Shatner's brilliant in this one. But what always gets me about this episode, and again, because I do like to think of things in a historical context, it kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier, when aside from Twilight Zone or Outer Limits, something this amazingly high concept science fiction has just not been heard of that much or ever on television or in any kind of really media other than books maybe. And you had this wonderful device of the transporter that is, of course, the malfunction causing the split between Kirk's two sides. Is it how scientific is it? I don't know. I don't even want to speak to that. I don't care. This is it's such a wonderful setup. This Star Trek is such a wonderful setup to talk about certain things. In other words, you can't do it on any kind of normal television show. You couldn't do a story with someone's good side and someone's bad side split into two to take a look at them and to do a philosophical story about them without magic. But you could do it on Star Trek and you could say, yes, it's advanced science and it's an accident.
Yeah.
And you have that wonderful concept and you get to see something in a story that you could only see, especially at that time, on Star Trek. And that
concept for 1 second, Mike, you're making a wonderful and salient point, but I just wanted to let you know that the wonderful Mr. and Mrs. Feliciano are departing for the evening. So I would like to say good night to Mr. and Mrs. Feliciano. You two are just an amazing force. You guys are just a force to be reckoned with. I just love you guys so much. Thank you so much for coming tonight, for your great comments, participation, and thank you so much for sharing your cosplay. That was just so cool.
Yes, indeed.
We had a great time with you, as usual. Please enjoy the rest of your weekend, and on behalf of Mike and myself, we sure hope to see you next Saturday. Well, actually, no, I'll see you at Friday Night Frolics, like I always do.
Of course. Thanks for being here, Feliciano. Thank you so much. I'm always honored to have you. Thanks a lot. Again, I'm always honored to have everyone here, of course. But it was basically, I'm just really impressed with the concept.
Yeah.
Obviously, it would be old hat today, but at that point, I mean, I had to. I sometimes like to, like I was doing earlier, project myself into a fairly, an adult of the time, seeing this for the first time. Going, wow, what a great idea.
Yeah.
What a wonderful concept it is, because I do think it's a wonderful concept. Strangely, for those who don't know, the very first non-adaptation Star Trek novel written which was by James Blish, who wrote the episode adaptations, was called Spock Must Die, and it was kind of a rehash of this in a sense.
Well, we know that this is the first time that we have multiple Kirks, and we have multiple Kirks after this many, many times. And perhaps that was in part because William Shatner really enjoyed doing it. But the multiple Kirk idea, this is the beginning of it, right? And here we have Block and Arrowman saying that this is Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but I totally agree with you. I don't think it's Jekyll and Hyde. I don't believe that is even relevant here. I actually wouldn't even make that comparison. I think this is really about the fact that the studio came to Gene and said, look, there aren't going to be any shuttles. There aren't going to be any tractor beams. And incidentally, there isn't a tractor beam in the Corbomite maneuver. It doesn't appear. It's invisible. So here we're seeing these massive budget constraints, right? So that's a huge part of this. And then we see this genius person just turn around and say, look, we'll beam them in and we'll beam them out. And so when you start to ruminate over that as an author, you start to think to yourself, wow, somebody could just randomize your molecules or your atoms and your molecules, and you would come out, you would go in here and come back, and you would be reassimilated in front of everyone. So I think that was the impetus for this idea, this sort of we're going to take you down to your molecules and reassemble you, and something may go wrong.
Yes. Well, Rod Thunderheart, when you really think about it, how many personnel began having phobias about beaming after the captain is split in two people? Well, I don't know, but I can't. When I was talking, well, yeah, but before that, even obviously, yes,
McCoy,
well, Barkley later, and that was many years later. But McCoy didn't like it. You're right. And again, when Hoshi didn't like it, it was a lot newer. Mm-hmm. But in the Blish book I mentioned, Spock Must Die, Scotty at the beginning of it, I don't know why I remember this. It's been so long since I've read this book. I'm pretty sure that was it. Scotty and McCoy were having that age-old argument about once you beam somewhere, are you dead? That old philosophical.
Yeah, because when they bring you back through the pattern buffer, they're actually bringing back a different version of you, right? So it's just funny that you should say that, because I actually included that in my notes. So in my notes, I said, one thing that is commonly overlooked in this episode is the serious and brave coverage of rape, what it's like to confront your rapist. I think that people forget that that's in this episode, and I really like the way that it's done. But also, this gets into the Tuvix debate. Can everyone see how him Tuvix screaming, "I want to live," and then of course he responds to himself, "You will, both of us." And so we can see here how transporter accidents should always be corrected. This gets rid of the Tuvix idea because it's a mistake. And
yes,
and yeah, I love that you brought that up, Mike, about how once you go in that transporter and you come back, really.
You could guess which side McCoy was taking, which Scotty McCoy was making the argument, and Scotty was like, "What's wrong with you?" And they were basically the only way, I guess, if I lived in that context of that fiction, and I would lived in the 24th, 23rd century, whatever, I would look at it this way. Well, if I step into the transporter beam, then I end up somewhere else, and I'm thinking the exact same thought when I beamed over, and I'm having all the exact same thoughts and everything. I don't think I'm a copy. I think I remember everything. How am I a copy? I mean, how am I dead? So I don't know. But I do. It's a wonderful and it's interesting.
It's an interesting thing to play with. We would need a physicist here to help us through it. But there are some questions and comments that are coming up in the chat that I would like to get to. Mm-hmm. One would be Eric K. Are you still here, or Chris? You guys are the two people that I really count on to be my help when we're doing the show. So would one of you do me a favor, please, please, please? go and look up what minus 120 Fahrenheit is in Celsius, because somebody asked in the chat and it's flown by now. I'm not sure who asked, but they said in Canada, does it ever get to minus 20 Fahrenheit? I want to be able to answer that question, so I would need to know the Celsius of it. Eric or Chris, could you please look that up for me? And what's another one? Oh, why does Kirk have makeup in his cabin? It's my understanding, Dioberg, that he's actually gone back to Yeoman Rand's room to try and get some more action out of her. So it's actually Yeoman Rand's makeup that I believe he gets his fingers into.
Yeah.
Also,
okay.
In my notes, just so I make sure that I cover all my notes, my husband and I call evil eyeliner Kirk. We call him Swerk. And the reason why we call him Swerk is he's sweaty ass Kirk. So if you refer to him as evil eyeliner Kirk, my husband and I wanted you to know that evil version of eyeliner Kirk is actually Swerk, because he is sweaty ass Kirk. It is the sweatiest you are ever going to see Kirk. Oh, it's minus 84 Celsius. D. Oberg put up. Are you sure? Oh, because isn't 120 a minus 120 absolute zero? So that would be like, yeah, maybe that is minus 84. Yeah. Okay. So whomever asked that in the chat, thank you so much, D. Oberg, for answering that. And I can answer that in the province where I am, we have been the coldest place on Earth 5 times in 1 year, 2 years ago, at minus 58 with the wind chill. And there are people who live in much more northern parts than I do. I don't know how cold it gets in Nunavut or Cambridge Bay with the wind chill. It would have to be something you would look up. Thank you, Eric, for confirming that, sir, and thank you, Dioberg, for looking it up. So yeah, for me, where I'm at, it's minus 58 with the wind chill. That's about as cold as it gets here.
Yikes!
And the great Rod Thunderheart is from the same place I'm from. So Rod and I, this is where we live. We live where your face is cold.
Whoa. We get concerned when it's we have I think I've told you this. We have really horribly ridiculous weather where in the daytime I have to run the AC, and then at night I have to run the heater. So it's ridiculous. It gets down into the 30s sometimes. Woo, big deals. Nothing compared to what you're used to. Yeah. And then in the next night it'll be up around 70 or 80. That's why we have it's horrific. It's again, it's a stupid old saying we have down in Louisiana: if you don't like the weather, wait a minute. It's just really annoying. But again, the concept of this episode to me, it's just, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I've always been very impressed with it. Some of the stuff with Shatner playing the dual role like that, it's really a wonderful performance, in my opinion. It's just thoroughly entertaining. It's again, and I'm going to keep doing this. I'm always going to do this. If I'm a young or an adult at the time seeing this for the first time, I'm blown away. And which, of course, as we both know, happened. A lot of people were watching this thing. They'd never seen anything like it. And that's why, you and I are talking about it almost 55 years later.
Yep.
Because of the way it affected people, because of how amazing and intelligent this show was, and groundbreaking. People use that word too much sometimes, but it really fits here.
And it's a much better performance than Patty Stew's There Are Four Lights. It's just, I find that to be kind of campy and off-putting, whereas this completely unglued, imbalanced, completely condensed, violent lizard brain shell or part or splinter of Kirk, I think it's much more believable. And I think it's terrific acting. There's nothing operatic or cheesy going on here when he really starts to say, I want to live. And he starts describing what it's like I mean, this is a splinter of a human being. So he has no compassion. He's completely irrational. He's just running entirely on emotion and fear. And it would be really hard to bring that to bear on screen without it being cheesy. And William does it here. Bill does it here to perfect effect. It's perfect. I can't imagine a Shakespearean actor doing a better job here. It's magnificent. It is a great performance.
Yeah, and again, the Trinity, the Triumvirate is just terrific together. Some of the stuff between with good Kirk, basically losing his ability to make judgments and snap decisions, and McCoy on the one hand just trying to encourage him and tell him, hey, like, you can beat it with your intellect, chum, and all this kind of stuff, and Spock reminding him, Captain, you can't let the crew see you like this.
Yeah,
you can't do it. Spock, both of them again. Both. Oh gosh, this is so good. Such great character development, especially as early on as we know this was. It's just fantastic. It really is, and it just speaks volumes about how wonderful those three are together.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I think so. I
love
just and I love Yeoman Rand. I think Janice does a great job here, and I think that the lesser covered or the less famous moment of a rape victim confronting her rapist. It's just great here, and I think that she did such a great job. Grace shows her grace here. She did a wonderful job.
Absolutely.
Oh, and here we have Canadian Spider-Man saying that it gets down to -60 where he's at. Okay, so that tells me that Canadian Spider-Man is a little bit more north than I am. And yeah, that's cold, man. That's cold. I hope you have your long underwear on.
Yeah, or as Adam West said it, special super thermal B long underwear.
It's funny because everyone in Canada has super special thermal underwear. We have to, because if you don't, you can't go snowboarding, you can't go skiing, like you can't enjoy yourself. So here it's all about the space gear. We wear really, really advanced outdoor gear here. We just have to. Otherwise, we'd all look like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man or the Michelin Man, where we would look hysterical.
Incidentally, we should point out, as my buddy Steve Mitchum actually pointed out earlier, and thank you, Steve. First, that we're introduced, not in addition to Sorry and Brandy, we're introduced to the Vulcan, the famous Vulcan neck pinch.
Yes, the Vulcan neck pinch is here, as well as isn't it the first time too that we hear? Is this No, this isn't the first time we hear Vulcanian, but I always think of these initial episodes where we have Vulcan and then we have Vulcanian, because of course everyone knows that I like to cosplay all 4 of the races of Andor, and people always say Andorian, and then they say Andoria, but it's Andor. So yeah, it's lots of really cool trivia buried in these first 4 episodes.
They even said Vulcanian in This Side of Paradise. So it's, I guess, and eventually they just stop saying it.
Yep. It's fab. It's fab. There's so much trivia in here. If you have the advanced Star Trek trivia game like I do, and no one here will play it with me.
Damn it. I have it too. I want to play. I think we have the same one, if I'm thinking of the same one.
Yes. I had to put it up on the shelf because I took it down one Christmas, and they're like, yeah, we're not playing this with you. This is ridiculous.
I've had it since 1992 or whatever, and I can't get anyone to play it.
Yeah. Steve Mitchum, yes, it really is. I believe that was also Andor. Initially, right? So it's Andor. Yes, but there's no /
No.
But no,
the planet,
Andor, yes, Andor, Andoria, and Andorian are all correct. But yes, that is a favorite, and the Vulcan and Vulcanian, those are 2 of my favorite trivia pieces, of course, because the third best trivia piece is how many races are there from Andoria? And of course, you must answer 4.
Oh my goodness, 4?
Yes, and
I know that
the one that I do all the time that I'm kind of famous for here in Edmonton, because I do a lot of personal appearances in theater, at the symphony. Whenever there's something to do with Star Trek, I appear as the Bishi warrior. So that is a race of Andoria, and that is the one that I continually redo. It took me over a year to build that character, so I've been doing that character for a few years now, and it took me a long time to perfect. So I just absolutely love doing it. And when people ask me to appear at their public events as that character, I definitely show up.
Nice. So, do we have any final thoughts on The Enemy Within?
No, just if you're thinking of eyeliner, Evil Kirk, I want you to think of Swerk, and I want you to think of me and sweaty ass Kirk. And I also want everyone to remember that this is one of the best answers you can give for the Tuvix debate, because it's actually the exact philosophical reversal of fortune. So it is the perfect rhetorical example that is required to get rid of the Tuvix debate. So people are like, "Oh, Tuvix, yeah!" Well, now you can be like, "I want to live."
For those not familiar, Tuvix is an episode of Star Trek Voyager in which Tuvok and Neelix were beaming either back or from some back or back up to the ship. Forgot what it was. And they ended up merging into one being. It became in the episode a being called Tuvix. And throughout he became fairly familiar with the crew at the time. And at the end, the holographic doctor found out a way to separate them, but Tuvix had kind of developed into his own person.
Barf. Insert barf icon.
I didn't know how you felt about that episode, and so Janeway has to, Tuvix wants to stay Tuvix, but Janeway, and I agree with her, says, I got to have them both back. They were two people. They didn't need to merge like this. Yep. And they make some big, I don't know, phony moral debate about it. I mean, there's no contest. You have to bring the two people back. They didn't ask for this crap.
Yes. And not only that, I think it would have killed the show, because Neelix is such a universally disliked character, whether rightly or wrongly, but everyone wanted Tim Russ back. And it just, losing Tim Russ, I think, would have been not good for that show.
Yeah. And again, I don't know if there were people mad at her. I mean, she made the captain decision.
There are people who are actually mad at her.
Oh,
I'm telling you, there are.
Yeah, it's so. Again, to me, that it would seem, and that's why it was kind of like a non-issue. It was like, look, hey, Tuvix, sorry, you're not. I know you're a being, but you're not. Also, I mean, in other words, if there'd never been a way to bring him back, it's one thing, but they found a way to do it. These are two people that didn't ask for this crap.
Yes, exactly. So if anybody ever says to you, how do you defend Tuvix? Or what is your answer to Tuvix? I want you to say the enemy within has every answer you rhetorically require to throw down, stomp, destroy, light on fire, burn, blow up, bury the Tuvix debate. No, I like Neelix. Okay, so you liked Neelix. Okay, that's very unusual. That's like going into a chat and saying Wesley is a beloved character. That is brave, Smart Steve 68. That is brave. My hat's off to you, sir. I doff my cap to you.
I'll say this, Smart Steve. After a while, I got used to him, and I really think that Ethan Phillips is a good actor. Nothing against him, but Neelix did kind of get on my nerves a little bit.
Yes, the writing for him was terrible. He was Chicken Man.
Yeah, he was just some of his relationship with Naomi Wildman and all that kind of stuff. And later, there were some episodes where he got fairly intense when it was written. Okay, but I don't know. I'm a good actor, but I was never a big Neelix guy. He was better.
Not a fan.
He was better as Barkley's cat. So now an episode that we were picking on Flash. I don't know if you're still there, Flash. earlier he had on his worst list. He had what was it? Oh, Buzz Women.
Yeah.
This next one he had on his best list, and I can't stand it.
What?
A Man Trap. Flash, you are a messed up boy.
Salt vampire, really? You
I think
get your
he
keister
likes
back
this
here
one.
and defend yourself, sir. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. You guys know I already love you. You can have any opinions you want.
Yeah, we're just messing with you. Are you kidding me? I've given Flash so much crap over different things we disagree with over the years, and that's why I love you, brother. Okay, so you do like the man crap, don't you?
The man crap. Sorry, my microphone just went really loud, but that was really funny. I've never heard man crap before. That's a gooder.
It's just maybe I've got a chip on my shoulder because they ran it first. Really, I just thought it was kind of obvious. Sounded obvious to me, man crap. I just think it's a crappy episode.
How is this season 1, ep 1 when it's prod 6? Just
all right. Let's be the network and Roddenberry for a second. Let's say, all right, look, aren't you guys? You can't say that one with that one with where he's fighting the godlike guy. We can't do that first. Well, why not? Now, can you pick another episode? All right. Well, I tell you what. How about this one? We've got this one here. It's called the CORBOMITE. There's no monster in that one. Well, Squirrel Monster. Yeah. And that one there. Look, how about that one you had with that little weird looking sucker face thingy, whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
You mean the Man Trap, the one we probably shouldn't have made? Yeah, it's got a monster.
Yeah, calamari lady. It's just totally ridiculous. I love Steve Mitchum's response at 53 minutes past the hour.
Yeah.
All caps. Spock's brain is the best Star Trek episode.
When you put it like that, maybe Man Trap isn't so bad, but okay.
God, I love our chat.
There are good things in Man Trap. It's just not really I don't know.
I like Canadian Spider-Man 52 minutes past the hour. I was neutral to Neelix. Have you ever seen that diagram where it's like neutral good, neutral evil?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of right now. And probably Canadian Spider-Man smiling.
Flash is here.
Oh, Flash, good.
Hey, Flash, dude, just messing with you. I love you, brother.
Yes, of course.
So other than maybe some interesting insights to a little bit of McCoy's past, I don't know. I can't really. I mean, well, you go ahead and just start out with the way we
Okay.
Any background you want to give us on that?
Let's make sure because the CBS. So SEEBS, CBS, they're not really the nicest people. So I want to make sure that we stay in copyright here. And once again, say this is from 365 Block and Arrowman. This is tile 46 and 47, The Man Trap. Please buy it or not. I'm just saying that so people can leave me alone on the.
and bite me, CBS, you pieces of dribble.
Right. Okay, here we go, folks. The Enterprise travels to the planet M113 to deliver supplies to a desolate world with only 2 inhabitants, archaeologists Robert and Nancy Crater. Nancy is an old flame of McCoy's, and the good doctor is admittedly nervous about seeing her again. But Nancy looks wonderful. In fact, she looks better than wonderful. Not a day over 25, according to McCoy. Curiously, Kirk sees her as a woman in her 40s, and crewman Darnell swears she's the spitting image of a girl he knew on Wrigley's Pleasure Planet. Professor Crater makes no secret of the fact that he'd like the landing party to leave as soon as they drop off a much-needed shipment of salt. But before that can be arranged, Darnell is found dead. His body is depleted of salt, and Nancy has disappeared. While Kirk searches for the answer to Darnell's death, 2 more crewmen are killed on M113. As a word spreads that an intruder may have boarded the Enterprise, the unresolved question of Nancy's whereabouts becomes the most pressing issue on everyone's minds. The M113 creature, referred to by fans as the Salt Vampire for obvious reasons, is both horrific and strangely pitiable. With its snout-like mouth, studded with spiky teeth, and its long, suckered fingers, the beast is truly frightening. Yet its downturned eyes and deeply lined face seem to suggest an inner sadness. When masquerading as Dr. McCoy, the salt vampire mockingly refers to itself as a creature. But this highly intelligent life form, the last of its kind, according to Crater, was undoubtedly capable of comprehending the results of its actions. Unfortunately, it wasn't capable of controlling its hunger long enough to bargain for a long-term survival. Perhaps after years of near starvation and a lack of contact with others of its kind, it was too far gone to want to try. Sulu calls the bright pink exotic specimen plant in the Enterprise's life science labs Gertrude. Janice Rand refers to it as Beauregard, claiming that a woman knows these things. Star Trek's prop department called it a hand puppet, although exactly whose hand that the plant, his or her personality, seems to have has been lost to posterity. It's a quintessential moment from the series. Mr. Spock is temporarily in command of the Enterprise and in total control, or so he thinks, until Uhura, feeling a bit neglected at the communications console, steps over to initiate a conversation with him. And what does she choose to discuss with the ever-logical Vulcan? Why don't you tell me I'm an attractive young lady, she suggests, or ask me if I've ever been in love. Tell me how your planet Vulcan looks on a lazy evening when the moon is full. As she speaks, her tone warm and inviting, Spock tugs uncomfortably at his collar, the only time in the series that he descends to a fidgety, almost human-like gesture. He is perhaps feeling a bit warm. By the time Uhura finishes her onslaught of coquetry, Spock has postulated what seems like the appropriate answer. Vulcan has no moon, Miss Uhura, he states. His expression betrays a bit of concern, as if he's worried that she may have missed one of the astronomical prerequisites at Starfleet Academy. I'm not surprised, Mr. Spock, she responds, holding his gaze just long enough to let him know she's not fooling anyone. From this scene, it takes a small leap to arrive at the same intriguing conclusion about Spock and Uhura's relationship that the writers of the 2009 Star Trek crap garbage vandalization of the IP did.
Forgot filthy maggot-infested trash. But
oh, yes, I forgot that. How could I? Hardcore Trekkies have a weakness for episodes that provide intimate glimpses into familiar characters' otherwise well-fortified souls. A well-loved example is The Naked Time, which provides an en masse look at the crew's armor, psychological armor, but other episodes effectively prod the psyche of individual characters. In The Man Trap, poor McCoy finds himself caught in a waking nightmare, tossed emotionally off balance by the opportunity to experience a brief reunion with Nancy, that one woman in his life. McCoy barely has a chance to say hello before the lady vanishes. A few hours later, Nancy shows up at the door to McCoy's cabin on the Enterprise. Perhaps her sudden reappearance should have warned McCoy that something wasn't right, as should Nancy's insistence that he take a powerful sedative to get some rest. But love can blind a man to the obvious. A short time later, his mind muzzy from the sedative, McCoy's waking nightmare becomes all-consuming when he finds himself confronted by a terrified Nancy begging for his protection, a grim Kirk, weapon drawn, ordering McCoy to step away from his former love, and an urgent Mr. Spock demanding that McCoy ask himself if the being before him is truly Nancy, when all along McCoy manages to see Nancy for what she is. She utters a heartfelt prayer for forgiveness, a heartfelt prayer for forgiveness and fires Kirk's phaser at something he knows is a monster, but feels, at least in his aching heart, like the last vestige of his beloved Nancy. It's the right thing to do, of course, and yet it's unlikely that McCoy enjoyed an untroubled night's sleep without those sedatives for quite some time. The Gorn and the M113 creature, aka the Salt Vampire, are two of the designer's sculptor Hua Chang's most famous and most popular Star Trek creations. And in the book, you can actually see a picture of the Salt Vampire, and then on the other side, you can see the Gorn made by this wonderful man, this wonderfully talented man, Hua Chang. And that brings us to page 52 and the naked time. So that's it. That's all. What that was their complete commentary on the man trap.
Well, again, as everyone knows, this was the first one aired. We know why, because Mr. Roddenberry has spoken on it often. It was because there was a monster. Big deal, but there was a monster, and the network idiots thought that was proper science fiction, I suppose. But
and a familiar idea of a monster too, Mike. That idea of that vampire thing.
Right?
So they weren't really comfortable. They weren't very believing, right?
Yeah, and the concept's not bad or anything like that. I just thought the episode was I don't really like the way it was directed or even that much written, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
my criticisms. Agree. Yeah, my criticisms are first of all, it didn't need to be first for that dumb reason, and secondly, it was even if it had not been, I just don't think it was really that good of a story. I mean, the concept's okay. Nope. I don't think it was particularly handled that well. I don't really hate it. I joke about it, but I don't really hate it that much.
And calamari likes lemon, not salt. Oh. Anyway. Yeah, so we have Mark with a C. I feel for the salt vampire. I always put too much salt on my fries. And then we have Scuba Pete. A salty episode for sure.
Assaulted by the salt vampire. I don't have a rim shot thingy.
I missed that one. Smart Steve 68. That's a gooder. Assaulted by the salt vampire.
Oh man.
Sodium. The sodium wench.
You saw a moose in the woods once. I was terrified. Had a gun and walked off. Okay, I had a gun. Well, was a squirrel nearby? Because a moose and squirrel, that would be pretty cool to see.
But the thing is, Mike, returning to the text, doesn't this make sense? It doesn't make sense as season 1, Ep 1. But doesn't this make sense season 1, Prod 6? This sort of gets the viewer into the idea that there may be monsters involved with this series as well. So here, once again, we can return. Let's go back to Gene Roddenberry's brain. Just let the man tell the story. He doesn't need a substantive edit where you start moving chapters around. When somebody's super annoying while you're cooking. I used to own restaurants. So, when somebody comes up to you and they want to taste something and you just slap their hands away, that's what Gene should have done here. He just should have slapped their hands away and said, look, leave this alone. There's a story unfolding in my mind, and I don't mind your creature feature, but it's going to have to wait for Prod 6 where it belongs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, if I'm sitting there on September 8th, and you're in your case, September 7th in your country, when this thing first aired in 1966, and I'm an adult, it wouldn't make me not watch the next episode.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. Maybe Gene's pappy jumped the gun a little bit. But I would have been like, okay, this is interesting. We'll give it we'll see what happens next.
It's a bit of a turnoff. Like, as far as I'm concerned, if you have the CORBOMITE maneuver, and you decide that that your 1-1 is not that extraordinarily perfect, gorgeous, majestic episode, and you decide instead that the calamari vampire is your 1-1, yikes. Just yikes.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, there are far, in my opinion, far worse episodes. I don't have a whole lot to say about it other than there's some. I think the scene that might have turned me off the most, especially if I've been watching it back then, is at the end when Kirk. Again, we were talking about how great Shatner was, and he was, and Enemy Within. Scene with the I'm sorry, there's no two ways about it. This scene here where he is being killed by almost killed by the.
It's perfect. Isn't it so believable that it's actually scary? It's so believable that it's actually scary.
I'm talking about Shatner though. He just his crying about it kind of.
That's what I mean. I'm thinking the same thing. You and I are very of one mind in Star Trek, and I know exactly what you're about to say, and I feel it too. You feel it in your soul. That's something that gives you goosebumps. You're like, oh, listen, that like just the excruciating pain. I don't even know how he was able to make that sound, but it's so believable that it almost makes you want to like the episode.
Well, it was like I say, it was just a clunk, maybe a little bit of a clunky episode, I guess I could say.
Yeah,
maybe
it was. Maybe if we would have had some tzatziki for the calamari and we would have had lemon instead of salt. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but Flash thought it. I think I can't. Again, it's been a while, Flash, but I think Flash liked it because he kind of liked it. Had a creepy atmosphere to it, and he liked the episode. Totally. So I mean, look, there's nothing wrong with liking it. I mean, it's not like you're liking and the children shall lead or anything, because then I would have to come to your house and beat you up, Flash.
But Flash is right, because what Flash is right, because when I was a kid and I watched this, I was not thinking any of those things that I just said. Do you know what I mean? Like, I grew up in the 70s. I'm not 50 yet, but I'm pretty close to it. This episode terrified me. I have to say, it's one of the most terrifying moments I've ever had in my life. I was scared of this thing. And once again, let's look at what Mark with the C said earlier. One of the reasons why I found it so scary too is watching it in black and white. When you're up all alone watching it in black and white, you're checking under your bed because you're not thinking calamari wench, and you're not, sort of joking to yourself. You're scared. And in that way, I think Flash is correct. I think when we were watching it, that was it was mind-blowingly good. But in retrospect, and also being privy to the fact that this was 1-1 instead of the Corbomite maneuver, geez, like how do you choose those two things over one another? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, there was nonsensical, but Star Trek survived. So, I mean, it's a couple of years before that, with a show that you may have heard of, at least, called Doctor Who. It's funny how this kind of thing works. Like with Star Trek, it survived them not putting on their best episode first or whatever, and people it's a phenomenon now and stood the test of time. Doctor Who was about to be canceled after one 4-part episode. They were in 4 parts. And this is a story that just relates up to how crazy TV execs are. BBC, they ran the first episode. There's a movie about this, actually. It was really good. And with the first Doctor, and then they had to refilm the whole pilot. And when they did it, they were about to get canceled. The first episode aired the day after Kennedy was shot. I mean, nobody wanted to watch TV.
Yeah.
And then they were told they had these rules coming down from the BBC: no bug-eyed monsters. No monsters. Yeah. And yet they went ahead and anyway filmed the thing with again, you don't have to be a Doctor Who fan to have probably heard of the Daleks.
Mm-hmm. Oh, of course.
Well, they filmed the first, it was a 6-parter. The next story with the Daleks, they got away with filming it. They had to fight tooth and nail to get this thing made. Nobody at the BBC wanted to do it. They said, you can't do this. Well, you've seen with these weird pepper pots with sticks coming out of them that talked funny. Well, after they aired the story, the BBC kept getting angry parents writing letters and stuff. Stop it. How dare you put these horrible things on TV?
Yeah.
But the kids fell in love with them. The kids were running all over the place playing like Daleks. They couldn't get enough of it. And the BBC said, oh, well, in that case, and of course, the Daleks became more popular than the show itself. At that time, of the 60s, they were more popular than the show. So I'm using it as an example of it's weird how things work out on TV. Without the Daleks, no one would ever know what Doctor Who was. It was canceled. It was dead. Mm-hmm. And these weird, stupid creatures came around, and they became as big over there as some of the things as Star Trek is over here. And it's weird. So one little bitty decision can change everything. And on this one, I don't know. It's weird. They may not have showed the right episode, but it worked out okay.
It did. And I do have to agree with Flash, and Rod. Like when I look back at when I first watched it, I never had any of these opinions. None of these opinions. Everything that's coming out of my mouth right now is total crap. I was completely blown away. I had never seen anything like that when I was a kid. The thing scared the living bejesus out of me. I thought it was strange. I thought it was bizarre. I thought it was inventive. That I couldn't even fathom something sucking all the salt out of your body. How does that even happen? The fact that this thing was able to cast a spell on you like a vampire, so you couldn't move, and you felt beholden to it. You felt affection for it. Yeah, and the fact that it just has this reckless abandon like a vampire, like it's the last of its kind, and it's going out and doing these things recklessly in public, and you're just wondering, does it have a death wish, or is it just that psychotic? So yeah, I mean, it's easy for me to look back on it because I'm in a completely different space and time and in a completely different society. But yeah, Rod Thunderheart and Flash, yeah, black and white TV in the 70s watching this, you're a kid. I don't believe you if you did not lift up your blanket or put your pillow in front of your face. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Pure lies. Anyway.
Oh man, Space 1999 was more of a horror than a science fiction show there, Mark with a C. So yeah, that's scary stuff on there too.
It is. Like it's very scary for us when we were kids, and I think that's also why now, when the younger generation is like, "It was campy," you're like, "What are you talking about?"
No, yeah.
Like the only other show on was Bonanza. What do you mean?
Now that was scary. No, I'm just
but you know what I mean? Like stretching your very thoughts, your very grip on reality, and bending your mind in very cerebral ways that you could tell were difficult to flesh out on screen. And even as a kid, you could perceive the gravity of the concepts and the philosophy behind it. You could totally feel it. I mean, they wanted us to love the salt vampire, the M113. They wanted us to feel empathy for, and this is something that many of the Canadians in the audience could feel, that warmth for the extinction of the buffalo. Oh, Katie's here. Hello, gorgeous.
Here, Katie. How are you? Oh my goodness. Well, we were happy to see you. Late? Yeah, you're never late. When you're here, we are just thrilled to see you, my friend. Yes. Thank you.
We love you very much. So good to see you. And even if you did miss the beginning of it, I hope you'll go back and listen to it. Although you're pretty darn good at doing your homework on TOS, and I know you actually watch it. You don't just talk about it on social media. I know you actually watch it. So yeah, I wish you would have been here earlier, but I'm glad you're here now because I just think you're the cutest, and I'm so happy you're here.
Well, yeah, you were awesome, Katie, and so wonderful to see you. Thank you again.
If you don't know who Katie is at home or in the chat, and you wonder why we're so excited to see her, Katie Carr is going to be starting her own blog where she'll be talking about Star Trek and other things.
Oh, cool.
She is a wonderful ballerina and just a beautiful young woman. But the craziest, most wonderful thing about Katie is she's very young, younger than my daughter, and she watches TOS. And she doesn't just talk about it on social media and these transmedia narratives like everyone else is doing, using it as a cultural currency or a conversational currency. Katie actually watches it. And so here we all are, these more than 5 decades later, and we have this beautiful, young, talented woman who's actually interested in our IP, and not just any IP, but the original gangster IP. This is a young woman who our community should embrace because she's going to pick up the baton and carry it long after we're gone. And this is somebody who cares about 66 to 05. So keep your eye on Katie Carr and watch for her blog. And if you have a chance, follow her on Twitter. She is hardcore Voyager. And yeah, she always has wonderful things to say and very articulate young lady.
The blog, Katie, will that be a as in just a blog where you'd be doing prep videos or a YouTube channel or what?
I think she publicly announced it. I think she put all the
Oh,
details
okay.
on her Twitter. But if you wanted to put that to
Well,
the chat, let's tell everyone about it, Katie, if you don't mind.
well, again, if you have a channel, Katie, let us know.
Yeah, if you're planning on doing a channel, yes, tell us about it, because I want to help promote you.
Please do.
You are our bridge to the next generation of the original Gangster Friends, and there aren't very many of you. A lot of people came on at with the new Star Trek generation, and they don't really know anything about 66 to 05 like you do, Katie. So you're anomalous. You are a very special young woman, and we want to keep you as a bridge in our community.
Pass that torch and keep that faith there, Katie.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you are doing a channel or
faith
blog,
in the heart.
Yes, faith in the heart, indeed. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, this was always so much fun hanging out with you doing some Trek. I guess we could kind of start wrapping it up a little bit.
Yes.
Next week, of course, there will be 4 more.
There will.
Of Trek episodes in production order, folks.
Yes, please. Yes, because, like I said, that is vital to storytelling. If you wrote a book and then someone came along and put all the chapters in a different order, I think you'd be pissed off. So we're doing it in proud order, folks.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's see, by the way, the book that this cool book that Raquel has been referring to is this one. Of course, it is Star Trek 365, and I still plan on getting it. I forgot to order it last week. I forget everything with them, but it really is cool. It's a brick. It really is shaped like a brick and everything.
And watch it when you open it, because, like I said to folks, I just want to warn you. I take really good care of my books. I'm a book collector, not just Star Trek, but literary books. I'm a major reader, and I've always read this book in bed, and so I've never had any problems with the spine. Since I've been reading it tabletop, the binding has come loose. So if you get it, this is a very nice book. It has tons of verified production information in it. Problem being, make sure you baby it.
Yes, absolutely. Steve Mitchum, let's see here. Next week I won't be able to participate. John Davey and Michael Gray they're doing a classic Sam on Zoom. Okay, that's cool, buddy. I love those guys. So let me know how that goes.
You'll be missed, Steve Mitchum. You'll be missed.
Course. Absolutely. And I will be on Monday night, everyone, doing my usual. Monday night's a staple now. Was it last week? I moved up the Wednesday show a couple hours because I wanted to have Stephanie on. But I'm going to usually do it Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. Going to be the regular nights. Monday night, I will be. It'll be kind of an open talk thing, but at first it's going to be paying tribute. Those of us who are Legion of Superheroes fans and comic book fans in general lost a great artist. Again, not one of your more well-known artists, but Steve Lytle was a great artist on Legion, and he did some Marvel stuff as well. And passed way too soon, unfortunately, like a lot of people lately. And at 61, and I'm going to pay tribute to him. He's really, really great artist and stuff. So
very sad.
Little Legion, very sad indeed. A very talented feller, that's for sure. So, was it? Blog is already up, and okay.
Congratulations.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you have links to it on your Twitter. If you do, I shall go seek it out. Katie, if you do, if not, send us. I guess send links to Raquel or send them to me if you would. I'd like to see it. And so, let's see here. And then Wednesday night, I'll be doing something I don't know. And then next Saturday night, like I said, right back here in Star Trek class.
Yep.
So you got anything you would like? And by the way, incidentally, I'm sorry, I almost forgot. If you have not yet, please check out all of those links that I have in my description below to a lot of my friends' great channels here. The wonderful Retro Blasting, my great pals. And, Go Pens. Yeah, Go Pens Flash, by the way. But yes, and a lot of other channels. And, of course, Raquel, of course, has some writings of her own, and there's a link in the description below. Please go check out her writing.
Please, they are short stories, and they are science fiction stories, and they're done in a way that's like The Outer Limits or like The Twilight Zone. but there's a good deal of a literary quality to them. So they're a bit like Edgar Allan Poe as well. So that's under my name, RM Briggs, at Amazon.com, and you can buy them there. Oh, there's also a sample on my YouTube channel if you would like to hear a sample of one of the stories, to hear the to hear the audio of one of the stories.
I did not know you had a YouTube channel. I'll have to get that link.
I don't. I have no interest in having my own channel, but there is a famous actor, director, and playwright here in Edmonton. His name is Eric Smith, and he read my story. And through some connections that we have, he wound up being the audible voice. So when my short stories become a bound edition, there will be audible versions of the stories. And so this wonderful, talented actor, director, playwright, Eric Smith, has read the story. And I just put up a sample of it so that people could become familiar with my writing style. And it's sometimes scary to buy something and you're not sure what the author's voice is like or what the story will be like. So I think that that's helping to bridge the gap between me and the potential readers.
Well, excellent. I want to thank everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I had a wonderful time. And of course, both Raquel and the chat made it a wonderful night for me. So I thank you all. And let's see, let's get some of the thank yous in there. Of course, the great Steve Mitchum, the great Eric K, and the great Chris Persia as well were here. Scuba Pete, thank you for being here. The wonderful Katie Carr, thank you. My good buddy Mark with a C, and my other good buddy Doug Oberg, thank you. Rod Thunderheart, thank you for being here, my friend.
Rod Thunderheart,
you rock. Smart Steve, buddy. Oh, Apollome's Minion, I didn't see you sneak in here. Apollome, thank you for popping in. If you're still listening, and if you're on the road, both hands on the wheel now. You know, because she drives all over the place. Canadian Spider-Man does whatever a Canadian Spider-Man.
Yes.
Thank you, my friend. One of these days, man, you're coming down here. We're gonna hang out.
Bruce Lombardo.
The
Felicianos.
Oh yeah, the Felicianos. They had to go, but thank you both, the wonderful Felicianos. Just Joe 47 Jobber, thank you, brother. Of course, my good buddy Carrie Fisher, aka Flash. Flash, come back on soon, bro, or else. Again, I hope we covered everyone. Anyone out there? If anyone out there lurking, that is, thank you for so much. Let's see. A big hello, shout out to all intelligent life in the galaxy, and to everyone else out there. The secret is to bang the rocks together, guys. Little Hitchhiker's Guide there.
Yes, thank you to the whole chat, and for everyone at home who's just lurking or listening to this traditionally as a podcast. Thank you for sharing your time with us and your life with us, and thank you for allowing us to come into your devices and share this time in this celebration of OG Star Trek 66 to 05. Please join us next week. We'll do another 4 episodes as we go through this original IP 66 to 05 chronologically in 1 year.
This sounds great, Clobber Times. I'll swing over the Rockies and grab Raquel on the way. Both of you come down. Yeah. Come down to Louisiana. We'll get you some.
Be careful going over the Rockies. Isn't there a heavy snowfall warning? Please be careful going over the Rockies.
Yes,
we have like serious Rocky Mountains in Canada, and I don't think the rest of the world is aware of this, but we have serious Rocky Mountains here.
He has spider powers, so he's fine.
He does. He
might even have the spider buggy. I don't know. That didn't last long. That didn't last long, though.
I love you guys. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Had a great time tonight. Take care.
Later, Gator. Let me just turn this one off, and we are off.